Nobody better than Ali Abdaal to talk about productivity tools. So today we are going to watch a video in which we go through a lot of different productivity tools referred by Ali Abdaal.
So over the last 15
Nobody
years,
says
I've tried an enormous number of productivity apps and tools and tech. But in this video, I'm going to save you the time and money of having to test all of these yourself, and I'm going to share what I think are the best apps and tools and tech that I actually use every day to stay productive. So the first thing I do when I get up in the morning is that I go to the bathroom, I do a little wee, and then I weigh myself on my Withings smart scales. These are great because they're Wi-Fi enabled and they sync with Apple Healthcare, which means I can track how my weight changes over time, and this is just incredibly useful. It's like what they say, what gets measured gets managed. Then I'll have a shower and change and stuff. Next, I make myself a cup of coffee using a particular tech item called the Clever Dripper, which is a very nice way to make filter coffee. And then I use one of my favorite productivity tools of all time, which is a physical pen and paper journal. And what I do in this journal is something called morning pages, which is a technique from the book
okay, so he wakes up, he freshens up, and then he basically goes to a tracker in the morning.
The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron. And essentially the idea is that you write 3 pages by hand. I actually wrote 4 this morning because I was feeling like I was on a bit of a roll. You write 3 pages by hand of stream of consciousness, whatever comes to mind. And I find that this is a great way of unclogging my brain of any thoughts and errant things that were in there. And it also helps me come up with interesting ideas for what I can do with my business and my life. And even though there's a lot of apps and tech on this list, the trusty pen and paper notebook is just like one of the things that I go back to so often and really levels up my productivity as well.
That is actually true, you know. हम सबकी अपनी अपनी preferences होती हैं, but I think writing it down on a piece of paper is any given day much better than noting it down digitally. But I think अपना अपना personal preference होता है. आप अगर ज्यादा comfortable हो एक online या फिर मोबाइल पे ये करने में या फिर आप on paper ये करते हो, दोनों में आपका preference है. I think this is also a lot to do with the education system. हम बचपन से सीखते ही पेन और पेपर से हैं लिखना और इसीलिए मेरे ख्याल से writing something down is always much more effective when it comes to internalizing the process और ये एक मेरे ख्याल से हमारी एक natural instinct है that चीजें ज्यादा अच्छे से हमें समझ आती हैं अगर हम उसको खुद से लिखते हैं.
Alright, next comes a quick 5-minute step in my morning routine where I use the app Things3 as my to-do list to figure out what I'm doing for the rest of the day. Now at the moment, this is what my home screen on iOS looks like. You can see that basically I've got a calendar at the top and then I've got 2 widgets for things. So I've got the inbox widget and I've got the today widget. And the way I think of managing a to-do list, it's basically 2 different lists. There is a to-do list and then a today list. And I find that this generally keeps things simple. So what I'll do is I'll look on my today list to see what shows up on there. So for example, film this video is on my today list. Call my grandma is on this list, and this is something that repeats 2 days after completion, which means if I take it off right now, then it's going to show up 2 days from now and remind me that I should call my grandma. This also synchronizes with my calendar. So if we look at the top, we can see what calendar events I've got on in my life. And this is a nice way for me to plan my day in the morning. It just takes a couple of minutes, but it just helps me realize that, okay, this is exactly what I'm working on. Now, generally I've got a pretty good idea of what I need to work on, but in case I need some inspiration, I look at my anytime list, which is just like my endless to-do list, and I decide, okay, what is the stuff on here that I just need to get done today? I don't
तो बेसिकली एक डेली ट्रैकर है और एक टोटल नंबर ऑफ टू डू लिस्ट है हमारे पास. सो टू डू लिस्ट से ऑटोमेटिकली पे आ जाती हैं. ये चीज हमने भी काफी ट्राई की है, रादर मैंने भी काफी ट्राई की है नोशन पे. बट प्रॉब्लम क्या होती है कि जो मान लो आज जो चीजें कंप्लीट नहीं हुई हैं, वो चीजें अगर बैकलॉग में चली जाए तो उसको कैसे डील करें, क्या हम फिर से बैठ करके उसका डेट चेंज करें. दैट बिकम्स अ टीडियस टास्क. वहां पे जाकर के चीजें यूजुअली बिकती हैं.
bother with this week, I don't bother with this month because I find that all of that stuff is all a bit mythical. All I do is focus on what are the things I need to do today. Now what happens next depends on whether I want to write something in the morning or whether I want to film something in the morning, because that's generally how I use my mornings. And generally if I want to write, then I'll take my journal and I'll stick it in my bag along with my 11-inch iPad Pro, and I'll head out of the house to a local coffee shop or a local restaurant. And this is another productivity tool that served me well over the years, and that is changing up the location. I used to do this a lot in medical school. I would go to different libraries and different coffee shops to work in those different locations in each day. And generally I find that it makes work feel a lot more like play, which is something I talk about in the first chapter of my upcoming book, Feel Good Productivity, How to Do More of What Matters to You. That'll be linked down below if you want to check it out. And then another tool I find very useful is something like this.
ये भी काफी इंटरेस्टिंग चीज है कि अगर आप एक जगह पे बैठ करके काम करते हो, यूजुअली जो आपका वर्क स्पेस होता है वो यूजुअली बेटर होता है. इट ऑलवेज हेल्प्स अगर आप थोड़ा सा चीजें चेंज अप करो, बिकॉज लाइफ थोड़ी सी ना मोनोटोनस हो जाती है, थोड़ी सी बोरिंग हो जाती है. और बहुत बार हर 2-3 हफ्ते में अगर आप कुछ दिनों के लिए कोई और जगह पे जाकर के काम करते हो, तो द नेक्स्ट टाइम व्हेन यू कम बैक टू योर वर्क डेस्क इट बिकम्स अ लिटिल बिट मोर फ्रेश. ऑलवेज हेल्प्स. वो बोलते हैं ना चेंज ऑफ एयर, तो बेसिकली चेंज ऑफ एयर की तरह ही काम है ये.
This is one that I use at the moment. It's the Peak Design 6-litre sling. And it's basically a fairly simple bag, but it has enough space for an 11-inch iPad Pro and also my journal and pen. And then if I feel like it, I'll take a camera with me as well, and that plops nicely into this bag. And now, I have a little sling bag that I can carry around with me. Now having 2 different bags is actually super helpful. So essentially my journal and my iPad always live in this one. But then I also have my enormous laptop bag, which is the Peter McKinnon everyday camera bag that has my laptop and a bunch of accessories and an extra camera in it as well. But if I'm just leaving the house to go to a coffee shop to do some writing, it's really nice to just be able to grab and go with the sling rather than have to lug around the enormous laptop bag. And this might be a bit overkill, but one of the things that I swear by is reducing the friction as much as possible for the things that I want to do more of in my life. I would like to do more of going out and about, going to a local coffee shop or going to the park and working from there. And so whatever I can do to reduce the friction of that happening makes it way easier for me to do and makes it way easier to build that habit. At this point, I'm at a local coffee shop or restaurant or wherever. I like to change up the location. And the app that I tend to mostly write on my iPad is called Ulysses. It's a very simple, minimalistic, markdown-based writing app. And so whether I'm writing my email newsletter or working on some new book projects or even planning videos, usually I'll do the first draft of writing in Ulysses and then I'll try.
Always have a notepad with you. Always helps to note things down. चलो आप digitally उसको structure करो, आप कहीं पे डालो, आप email पे ये करो, आप टीम के साथ share करो. Always to have things on a digital basis. लेकिन एक pen and paper जो होता है जिसमें सारी चेकलिस्ट बनती हैं, कोई तोड़ नहीं है इसका। एक A4 शीट ब्लैंक तो हमेशा हमेशा रखो, इवन इफ फॉर डुप्लीकेट, you should definitely have that.
Transfer it into Notion if it's a video, or Google Docs if it's a book thing, or ConvertKit if it's an email thing, but Ulysses tends to be the place where I do most of my writing. And the thing I like about it is that you can also track your daily word count, and so I've set a target of 1,000 words a day, and I can see my progress towards that target. Now, one productivity tool that I haven't talked about in this video is, in fact, therapy, which I have started recently in the last few months and has been game-changing for me to help understand my own emotions, understand the limiting beliefs that I've got getting in the way of my productivity and my life. So I'm delighted to say that this video is a paid partnership with BetterHelp. BetterHelp is the world's largest therapy service, and it's 100% online. With BetterHelp, you can tap into a network of over 30,000 credentialed therapists. And then once I'm done with a few hours of writing, I'll usually come back home and get on my desk, and then the thing that I'm playing when I'm on my desk is YouTube videos that have focused music. So this is my YouTube homepage at the moment. The Enchanted
This helps. We also have that. तो ये भी एक ambient music की तरह, background music की तरह काम करता है अगर आप focused काम करते
Lands immersive writing session, peaceful day at Hogwarts, and I'll just put on a random one of these, like Lord of the Rings, Rivendell, ambience and music. And this is just like the music that I like to have on in the background. Usually I full screen this and have it open on my second monitor because I don't really use the second monitor for much. I'm mostly a single monitor kind of guy, but it's nice having the ambience and having the sound and stuff in the background as a way of helping me focus when I'm working. Next, I normally have a quick check of my emails to see if there's anything interesting that's popped up, and the app that I've been using for my emails since 2019 is called Superhuman. And Superhuman is the fastest tool I've ever seen to help navigate email, and it's got loads of keyboard shortcuts, which means I can get through my email inbox about twice as fast as I could with previous apps that I've tried, like the Gmail app. And then usually while I'm there, if there's no emails that require my attention,
How many of you have actually tried Superhuman? Please एक बार comments में बताना, because I have heard a lot. I might have got an invite sometime back also to use it, but it's fairly expensive. For an email tool, is an expensive email tool worth it? मेरे लिए तो Gmail काम कर जाता है. Of course, much better than Outlook, and you can use a lot of plugins and all there and to make things a little bit more better. But Superhuman कितने लोगों ने use किया है? Please comments में बताना यार अपना experience.
I'll have a browse through any newsletters that I'm subscribed to and see if there's anything interesting. So the two that I read most often are Morning Brew, which is a daily newsletter for like tech and business and finance, and secondly Readwise, which is an email that every morning it just sends me 5 highlights from books or articles or stuff that I've highlighted over the last like 10 years, and so it's a great way of me resurfacing the things that I've highlighted in the past. And then for the rest of the workday, we generally have even more writing. And all my writing when it comes to videos and when it comes to courses is done in Notion. Unsurprisingly, again, I've been using Notion since 2019, and we basically run our entire company using Notion and a few other bits of software. So for example, I'm writing this video in Notion. It's all planned out over here. I've got my 25 or so bullet points, and I've got this open on the screen in front of me as I'm talking to you. We've also got the content calendar with titles.
No better tool than Notion to organize your life. It's a one-stop destination productivity tool. You people should never miss out on this opportunity. If you people don't use it, please start using it. Life changes once you get used to it.
We've also got the content calendar with titles and thumbnails that are upcoming on the YouTube channel. Everything's organized in Notion. We've got annual objectives for our company. We've got our key results, so we use an OKR system. More on that later. And then we've got the different quests or projects that the team are working on for the sprint. So we operate in 5-week cycles, and so everyone has a little quest or two that they're doing in the 5 weeks.
5-week cycle for the team. This is an interesting one because I think ये जो cyclicity होती है ना within the team for reviews, cleaning up your SOPs and making sure that you're on the right track, that needs to happen. And majority of the things which people do, if few people are a little bit in the growth stage, are usually same things in different cycles. Cycle का time period define करना काफी important हो जाता है और क्या-क्या चीजें हो रही है on a recurring basis. So they have a 5-week cycle.
Now, while I'm doing this work stuff, oftentimes I'll be on this desk, which actually happens to be a standing desk, but because all the cameras and stuff are connected to it, I tend not to really use it in standing desk mode. And again, this is kind of overkill. I also have an extra desk next to me, which is also a standing desk that has a treadmill underneath it. And the treadmill is genuinely one of the most useful things that I've installed in my productivity arsenal over the last 6 months. I think I installed it 6 months ago. And in that time, I've used the treadmill for 65 days. I've traversed a distance of 235 kilometers, and I've used it 144 times, so on average twice a day for the 65 days. And it's great. You can see just over time, if I sit down on the computer, that's a Windows PC that's on the standing desk. So if I'm playing Diablo 4, which is the game I'm playing these days, I'll often be walking on the treadmill while I'm playing it. But if I'm working, I will just take my keyboard, which is a mechanical keyboard, which is the one that we're sort of building ourselves these days. I'll take the mechanical keyboard, I'll move it from this Mac Mini over to the Windows PC. I'll often switch between Windows and Mac just because it's kind of nice to change platforms. Again, a bit overkill, you don't need this, but if you have a standing desk and you haven't yet tried a treadmill underneath it, I would really recommend it. I think the one I have is the Walking Pad C2. No relationship with them, but I put an Amazon affiliate link down in the video description if you want to check it out. Speaking of keyboard, I generally use a mechanical keyboard. This is one that we are in the process of building out for our tech brand. More on that in a little while. So I've been testing a bunch of mechanical.
हाँ क्या चीजें करते हैं अली अब्दाल one of the most amazing and OG YouTube entrepreneurs होता है. And I think majority of the others have now turned entrepreneurs. हर एक का कोई ना कोई side business है ही जिससे वो अपने distribution को leverage कर रहे हैं.
Keyboards over the last like 12 months or so. And when I'm switching between Windows and Mac, there's a really good cross-platform app that I use to track my time, and that is called Rise. Now, Rise is a really good time tracking app that I've actually been using since November of 2021. I've had it installed on my Mac and then on my Windows PC.
I used Clockify. If you people will want to know more about Clockify, please put it down in the comments below. तो उसका भी हम लोग एक review करेंगे. Amazing tool, life-changing tool. But well, bottom line is you people should definitely start tracking your time in case if you don't do that already.
Since that time, you can see for all of 2022, I was tracking my time as well. And then for all of 2023 so far, filming this in August, I've also been tracking my time using Rise. It's an automatic time tracker. So it basically figures out what app you're on, what app is active, or what like Chrome tab or Safari window is active. For example, I spent a lot of time in video conferencing. I spent 183 hours on writing.
This is an overkill. I think screen app usage and everything, I don't know whether it works or not. Manually और अगर आप कैलेंडर बेस्ड ट्रैकिंग कर पाते हो कि कितने मीटिंग्स आपकी बुक हुई हैं and all of that, plus you add things manually. I think Notion calendar has done an amazing job in terms of this, but I think tracking के लिए at least मेरे लिए तो Clockify works the best.
Spent 87 hours documenting, 76 hours in in-person meeting, 183 hours spent in Google Docs this year. That's quite a lot of time. Most of that was just doing edits for my book, for example. And I've loved Rise so much that I actually reached out to the guys who created Rise and I offered to invest in them. And so we are now invested in Rise as an angel investor, which is kind of interesting. But if you want to check it out, then it'll be doing me a favor because then it'll show that my the amount I've invested in the company is like the company's going to grow. Fingers crossed. But that'll be linked down in the video description if you want to check it out. So then usually when I've done a bunch of writing throughout the day in these various different apps that we've already talked about, I then go on to filming a video. So for example, right now I'm filming a video. And there's been a bunch of productivity tips and tricks and tools that I've used over the last 6+ years to get the process of filming videos to be as efficient and low friction as possible. Because again, it's a thing that I enjoy doing, it's a thing I want to do. And if I can just reduce the friction as much as possible to doing the thing, it means I'm way more likely to do the thing. And so on this desk, for example, everything is a bit of a mess right now, but we've got this main angle that films camera angle A, we've got camera angle B, which is an overhead angle up here, we've got camera angle C, which is a shorts angle over there, it's a third camera that I use to film short form content, and all these cameras are hooked up with HDMI to the Atom Mini Pro, which is a camera switcher. Now this is really fun.
So I think ये तो point है कि अगर आप shoot कर रहे हो तो you need to get your studio in place. मतलब आपका ये lights, fixed होने चाहिए, आपको कहाँ बैठना है, आपका studio बना हुआ है basically. So they have a 3-camera studio setup.
Because if, for example, I'm doing a live session for my part-time YouTuber Academy, which is my course, I can switch between this camera angle and this overhead camera.
I am amazed by the number of plugins that this guy has done, about the company that he has invested in, about the startup that he already has. ये भी अपना कोर्स भी बेच रहा है इसमें, साथ में इसमें बेटर हेल्प का स्पॉन्सरशिप भी है. These people have learned the art of seamlessly integrating the communication within the video.
Angle. And then I can show my phone or I can do some writing or whatever the thing is, and people's minds are absolutely blown when this is what a Zoom call looks like. And then connected up to the main camera, we have the Sennheiser MK416, which is connected to a little kind of microphone stand up over there. And this is nice because it means like this microphone is just out of shot, but hopefully the audio from this microphone is very good. And I also have this microphone, which is the Elgato Wave 3, which is connected straight to my Mac. And this is what I use if I'm on a podcast, or sometimes if I'm doing videos, or if I'm on a Zoom call, for example. This is the microphone that I'll just sort of swing around and bring back in. And this is connected to the Elgato microphone low profile arm that we also use in our podcast setup. Now, there's a few other tools that I have on my desk that are quite nice. This thing I've got in front of me, which is what the monitor is on. This is a set from Ugmonk called the Gather 2.0. And it's like a stand for the monitor, and then a few other things. It's got a phone charging dock thing over here, which is quite nice. And this little box that I put post-it notes in because I enjoy post-it notes. And this other little box that I put post-it notes in because I enjoy post-it notes, and it's like magnetized, so it magnetizes to the laptop stand. And this is nice because it frees up space on the desk, which means the Mac Mini can go underneath the laptop stand, which is kind of cool. And then all of these gizmos, the Mac Mini is connected to the CalDigit TS3 Thunderbolt dock, which is then what's the thing that powers these two displays. And again, there's going to be links to all of this stuff down in the video description if you want to check it out. And then after filming, all the footage gets uploaded to Google Drive, where we've used 75 terabytes out of the shared 115 terabytes that we have on Google Drive. And we use Google Workspace for all of our kind of team's email addresses and for this Google Drive storage capacity as well. Now, at various points in the day, especially after having a coffee, I might take a trip or two to the bathroom. And when I'm on the toilet, if I'm being unintentional with how I'm spending my time, I'm scrolling Twitter or Instagram, like most of us do. But if I'm being intentional about how I'm spending my time, then the app that I use, which is amazing, is called Reader. Now, Reader is the very first app that I have on my iPhone on my screen number 2. And essentially, it's an RSS feed aggregator that's built by the people who build Readwise. And so anytime I want to read an article, it just gets saved into Reader, and then I can read those articles all in one go when I'm on the toilet. So for example, this is an article from Jack Rains, 5 career-related.
How many of you actually have RSS readers or news curators? Please put it down in the comments below, because I think Google News and your news feed on Twitter or LinkedIn serves things now majority of the times. इसके लिए अलग से आपकी जरूरत पड़ती है क्या? Please एक बार comments में डाल कर ये बताना.
Things I've recently changed my mind on, and I can just read the whole article on Reader. And then if I want to highlight anything, I can double click the thing, it gets highlighted, and then those highlights also synchronize with Readwise, which then also synchronizes with Notion, which means I basically automatically save and resurface the stuff that I've read that I found interesting. Now, usually after writing and filming, which are the two big things that I need to do, I will consult my calendar, and the app that I use for my calendar is Fantastic Help, which again I've been using for absolutely years now. So for example, I've got a filming block right now, and then at 11:30 we've got a content meeting with Content Squad, and if nothing imminent is happening, then usually once I've done the writing and filming thing, I will just go for a walk. And walking is another one of those absolutely underrated tools when it comes to productivity, because it's very fun and it recharges energy, and you can reconnect with nature depending on where you're walking. And I usually also find that some of the best ideas that I have are the ideas that I have while I'm walking. Now, while I'm walking, if I come across any ideas, I will always have my phone with me, and I'll just jot those ideas down in Apple Notes. And again, I've tried dozens of different note-taking apps over the years, but the one that I just default to if I need to write down something quickly is Apple Notes. And on my home screen on my iPhone, I have my Apple Notes inbox folder, which is where stuff goes by default. And then over time, at some point when I feel like it, I process what's in the inbox and convert it into Notion or into Ulysses documents or into tasks and things or whatever the thing might be. So for example, the other day when I went for a walk, I was listening to the audiobook The Greatness Mindset by my friend Lewis Hose. And then as I was listening to that audiobook and coming across interesting things, I was taking notes in Apple Notes. And then at some point, I'm going to turn this into a video on the channel, a book club episode about the book The Greatness Mindset. Now, usually when I'm walking, I'm not listening to things, but if I do feel like I want to listen to things, then I'm either listening to a podcast on YouTube or Spotify, or I'm listening to an audiobook on Audible. And very excitingly, my book is also going to be available on Audible. I'm narrating it in the Penguin Studios next month, so that's going to be super fun. I've got a whole 3 days where I'm spending all 3 days just narrating the audiobook and trying not to talk too fast and trying to bring the vibes into reading my own book, which should be fun. But you can check it out on Audible. I'll link to the website down below for the book, Feel Good Productivity. If you want to check it out, you might like to pre-order, because there's going to be loads of bonuses if you pre-order. All the details on the website. There's another cool app that I find really helpful sometimes when I'm walking or when I'm driving, and that that is Otter. That's Otter.ai, which is a sort of AI-enabled voice recording and transcription app. And I've got the widget on page 3 of my phone. And so if I ever need to just record something, if I've got my AirPods in, or if I'm in a meeting or having a conversation where I feel like actually recording and transcribing this would be really helpful, I just hit the record button on Otter. And then usually what that does is it starts recording immediately, and I can just have my phone on in the background or whatever, and it will do a almost perfect transcription of the meeting or whatever the conversation is. And it will also use AI to summarize what's being said and what's been talked about. And this is super helpful if I'm walking and I have an idea for a video, but I don't want to sort of type it on my phone like this while I'm walking. I'll just dictate it into Otter. And then the rest of the day, when it comes to productivity, is broadly spent on general work stuff. So we talk about how we use Notion for a lot of things. We also use Slack quite a lot for day-to-day communication, and I've got a video up there that's a more detailed look of how I use
नहीं, यूएस में स्लैक ज्यादा यूज होता है। इनफैक्ट सारी कंपनीज में स्लैक ज्यादा यूज होता है। वी हैव नेवर रियली यूज्ड स्लैक। इज इट यूजफुल? Would love to know your experience on that.
12 specific apps to run every aspect of my business. We also use Loom, which is a great screen recording software. Again, amazing for saving time in not having meetings, because if someone needs to update the team on anything, they'll just record a Loom, and then we can just watch that Loom back at double speed. So for example, this morning, Angus sent me this Loom kind of with an update on our business financials. And I just watched this Loom at like 2.5x speed, and that saved loads of time, and it meant that we didn't need Angus to have a meeting with me to update me as to what's going on in the finances of the business. So it's really good for productivity in terms of saving time, but also in terms of communication with the rest of the team. Now, if it happens to be a workout day, then at some point during the day, I'll spend about an hour or so in the gym. And the app that I use to track my workouts these days is called Fitness App, which is a thing, I think it's a company called Trainerize, but this is an app that lets you kind of do workouts and stuff, and you can also submit photos, like progress pics. I'm not going to show you those. Maybe one day when the body's transformed, I'll show you the progress pics. But I'm working with a chap called Dango, who is my fitness coach, who sort of remotely programs my workouts. So for example, this is body recomp workout A. We've got body recomp workout B, which is leg day, which is what I did yesterday. And we've got body recomp workout C, which is, I guess, chest and stuff. So that's if you're working with a remote personal trainer. But actually, the app that I would recommend if you are working on your own is Strong. Now, Strong was how I was tracking my workouts since way before I started. So you can apply the principles of progressive overload, because you can see what you did previously, and then you can try and either increase the weight or increase the reps in a very simple way of getting progressive overload into your routine. Then there's just random work stuff, and then usually we'll get to the end of the day, and usually at the end of the day, I'll go out for a meal with friends or with business associates or something like that. Now, either I'll walk if I want to get my steps in, or I'll take an Uber, or I'll take the train. And I've sort of made it a bit of a rule for myself that whenever I'm in a cab or on public transport in any capacity, I will just bust out my iPad and do some journaling. And I do that in the app Day One, which again, I've been using for absolutely years now. I think I've been using Day One since 2016. And so it's really nice because I can see 7 years worth of journal entries into Day One. And so I just type, that's where I journal thoughts, feelings, ideas about the business, ideas about my life. It's super nice. And then we get to bedtime. And so I've got an Amazon Echo in my room where I play relaxing yoga and meditation music as a way of helping me kind of wind down for the evening. Sometimes I'll do some stretches before bed. I have very tight hip flexors, very tight hips, and very tight hamstrings, and very tight neck as well, apparently, according to a physio I recently saw. And so I've got my Lululemon yoga mat that's just there in the bedroom, and it's out at all times, because again, it's all about reducing the friction for these things that I want to do. And then the last thing I usually do before bed is I set my alarm on my phone, and then I will read on my Kindle. So that was a whistle-stop tour through all of the productivity tech and tools that I have in my arsenal. But if you're interested in a deeper dive into how specifically I use these different apps, then you can check out this video over here, which is all about the 12 different apps that help you run a multi-million-dollar business. And in that, I've got lots of screen shares, and I'll show you specifically how to use each one, so that hopefully you can
I think it's an overkill जितना ये कर रहा है, but I think हो सकता है वो इस level पे operate करता भी हो. I greatly agree with writing things down, probably taking a few changes in your work settings, definitely tracking your time, and while walking, if you have any thoughts, उसको note down करके फिर Notion में shift करना. I think see there are 2 or 3 different tools. एक तो यार pen and paper होना चाहिए. एक आपका database या knowledge base का एक tool होना चाहिए, which is like a Notion. एक आपको टाइम ट्रैकिंग टूल चाहिए like a Clockify or the ones which Ali recommended. And you should also try and have a task list or a checklist for all the to-dos which basically shift to. वो usually जनता कैलेंडर के साथ करने की कोशिश करती है, but यार I think I have tried a lot. मैं तो नोटपैड पे भी मेरा काम चल जाता है for more faster things. Otherwise ज़्यादा स्ट्रक्चर्ड तरीके से करना है तो you can do Notion. But that was the video of Ali Abdaal talking about productivity tools. If you want to see more videos like these, please like, share, and subscribe, and also put down in your comments how did you like this video? What kind of videos do you want to see next? We talk a lot about startups and productivity and businesses here, and that's what you'll find in the channel here. And looking forward to see you in the next one.